So you're considering whether to live in an HOA or not, sooner or later, and you're looking for kind of perspective and data. That is my whole goal, is its perfect pros and cons list to ascertain the difference between an HOA or no HOA, because people either usually love them or hate HOAs. There's good reasons for both. There's no right or wrong. It's all about what the right fit is for you, what your priorities are, and what fits your needs. So we're going to get into that right now. Thanks for joining me today, because you don't know what you don't know. So let's go and check it out. I connect with people just like you every day to help them discover where to live and invest in real estate and sell property for top dollar when the time is just right. That can be a fine line. My name is Leif Jacobson. I'm an ex-cop turned realtor, also known as Safe Leif. If you're new to this channel, subscribe so you're first to learn about Colorado real estate. And my contact information is below, and I'm super excited to hear from you. So reach out by text, call, or email after this video. I would love to speak with you, or you can book a calendar event and I will reach out to you directly. So whatever works best for you. So we're going to cover the pros and cons today in opposing fashion. Usually there's a direct opposing view on from a pro to a con. So that's how we're going to cover those, and we'll get into it here. The first pro that's a huge advantage for most people are amenities and maintenance. So pools, parks, rec centers, gyms, sport courts, and even community activities that are orchestrated at those to foster a sense of community. That can be a huge advantage for people who want to be included and communicated with and orchestrated in the community and active and involved with other people and fostering relationships. The maintenance of the common areas are taken care of usually with HOAs. Sometimes that includes, the front part of each individual lot or yard. Sometimes that's just the common areas of the HOA. So those are huge advantages for people who are looking for a sense of community and involvement. One opposing con to that, though, is the cost associated with HOAs. So HOAs can be extremely expensive. In Colorado and Colorado Springs specifically, it could be $200, $300, $400 a month. Some are $500, $600, $700 a month. I'm also licensed in Florida. I work down south, and those can be extremely expensive. You're easily up into $1,000 a month for an HOA. So they're costly. You have to budget for that and account for that as a long-term budget. And those generally never go down. They only go up over time. Every few years, few years, those are increased and they will go up over time. Generally, they don't come down because cost of living goes up, and the price of everything generally increases over time. So sense of community and involvement and the amenities that come with that is fabulous, but the cost associated with having an HOA can be super costly, and it's just not everybody's priority. Number two, for people who like and want an HOA, is exterior maintenance and curb appeal, both in the common areas of the neighborhood and even in a gated community as you drive in and approach and drive into the neighborhood, but also each individual property. So there are architectural and aesthetic standards for neighborhoods and even individual properties that are a requirement by an architectural board, usually, within a neighborhood like this. So the advantage is you have consistency and aesthetic, as far as you don't have, Pepto-Bismol pink front doors and 9-foot fences in between every yard, so it could feel like a prison, and all sorts of funky things that you've probably seen in random neighborhoods that don't have HOAs. People can do some funky and weird stuff and have odd ideas for what they think looks good and may fit their needs, but it really often doesn't fit everybody else's needs. So that's the advantages, the consistency and the aesthetic of a well-kept neighborhood. You often have landscape maintenance and all that stuff taken care of. So there's an appeal, an aesthetic that they're going for as far as the look in a neighborhood. The antithesis con of maintenance and curb appeal that some people don't like is the fact that you can't, the good news is and the bad news is that you can't do whatever you want with your property. Even the exterior of a property and how it looks and how it feels to the neighborhood, you're not allowed to just do anything you want. So you need to go through communities and get approval in order to make certain changes. Also, HOAs can go a little bit overboard if you're familiar with the spirit of the law versus the letter of the law. So the letter of the law is exactly what's written, the black and white text of what you can and cannot do. The spirit of the law is what you're trying to make the neighborhood feel like, or how you want it to appeal to people in general. So some HOA boards, many of which are run by people who are retired and don't have much else to do other than manage the HOA, they can get a little nitpicky at times with people. And when you're getting a letter because your garbage cans are a foot off from where they should be against the sidewalk, that's not what everybody wants necessarily, and can come with a fine for stuff like that. So some HOAs go super nitpicky into the letter of the law rather than the spirit of the law, as far as where your garbage cans need to be located on garbage day and how quickly they're pulled in. You know, if you get a fine because your garbage can is out for 17 minutes longer than it should have been that day, as far as garbage pickup, that's a little tough. And yeah, that's a little bit of an exaggeration, but I've seen HOAs that pretty much operate that way. They're super stringent and they're watching and watching to get people all the time for stuff like that. And so they can go overboard, but on the other hand, it also keeps neighborhoods looking nice in general, and so people don't leave their trash in front of their house and garbage cans out for days at a time. The third pro for an HOA in a neighborhood is that they often have enhanced security and peace of mind for the community, such as, in gated communities, there's guard shacks and guarded entrances. There may be additional maintenance. There may be roving security vehicles as far as patrolling a neighborhood a little bit. So people can feel more safe and secure just having a presence around. As a retired police officer, I totally get that and appreciate that. I reference just a watchful eye throughout the community. So those can be enhanced as far as making it feel safer and more secure, even having your children wandering around so you have less random people and random vehicles coming through as far as a safety concern. The antithesis to that, of course, is that parking, pet ownership, noise levels, those can be more restrictive. So you can't just do whatever you want, wherever you want, whenever you want. There are restrictions as far as allowing you to do certain things at certain times. So not everybody wants to hear you partying at 11 or 12 or 1 a.m. and they want to be sleeping at night. The fifth and final advantage of HOAs is dispute mitigation and resolution. So you basically are paying, as part of those fees, you're paying to have a professional or management company address issues between neighbors. A lot of people are afraid of confrontation, afraid to initiate confrontation, as well as receive confrontation. Your neighbor doesn't necessarily want you knocking on their door, maybe feel super uncomfortable and fearful of you confronting them, reference something. So the advantage is that you can submit documentation, a letter, a petition through your HOA board or management company to address the neighbor indirectly. Some people don't like that and they would rather be addressed directly, and others are super afraid of that and would rather be addressed by an organization or the management company rather than being addressed by you as their neighbor. So to each his own. It's, again, not inherently an advantage or disadvantage. It kind of depends on how you roll and what your needs are and how risk averse you are to confrontation of any type. So the other one that is a negative that's not directly correlated to that, but special assessments. A lot of people don't know what special assessments are. So you pay your HOA dues, which are paying into a reserve account. So a good responsible HOA, a fiscally responsible HOA, is saving for the unforeseen, usually unforeseen, sometimes they're foreseen, issues that come up as far as usually community or common maintenance throughout a neighborhood or throughout a facility. But if those coffers, if those reserves don't cover the amount of an issue that comes up, some massive issue or damage that was unanticipated, hail in Colorado is a huge issue. If that causes damage to common areas or pavilions or something like that, you can have a special assessment assessed to all the members of the HOA. So just because you pay your HOA to the tune of $450 or so, or whatever it is monthly basis, doesn't mean everyone won't have a special assessment once in a while if something isn't covered by the saving or the reserve amount by the HOA. So say there's a $100,000 unexpected item and they divide that up, and that's spread throughout everyone's responsibility to owe the HOA and pay for that. So usually you have time to cover a special assessment, but you'll receive a notification from the HOA saying, hey, we had this expense. There's no smoke and mirrors. It's all up front typically as far as here's what this cost. We weren't anticipating it. It's not covered by the amount we had saved, and everyone is going to owe an amount of $2,000, or I've seen special assessments reach up into tens of thousands of dollars for unexpected things that's affecting the whole HOA. So it's to everyone's benefit to get it addressed and get it taken care of, but it's not fun to get a special assessment and say, hey, you have an unexpected cost here. Not everybody budgets for that. and you might have that due within a certain time period. The larger it is, the longer the time period you would typically have to square it up and address that and pay for that. A couple few $100s might be due immediately. Many thousands or tens of thousands, you might have a year or two to pay that off. So just something worth being aware of in the positives and negatives of HOA. So there's 5 good, mostly opposing pros and cons to HOAs and whether they're a good fit or not for you. Hey, I'd love to hear your comments, love to hear your thoughts, and any way I can help you explore property that has or does not have an HOA. I work with clients who say, hey, I don't want an HOA, and I won't even look at anything that has an HOA, and others who say the other way around. I'm not even entertaining living in a neighborhood that doesn't have an HOA. So to each his own. Love to serve you either way. Love to hear from you. My contact information is below, and I'm excited to talk with you. Thanks.